I think the Anne Margaret sex hair might be too much for YouTube. I don't want to get demonetized. Hey dolls, it's me, Wilma Fingerdoo, with the Fingerdoo review of RuPaul's Drag Race Season 7 All Winners Edition, Episode 10. And before we get started, I want to thank this week's Tipperdoos. Charles Mizzledine, you're a doll chuck, and we'll get that Patreon issue sorted out ASAP, or I will know the reason why. I also need to thank my Tipperdoo boyfriend, Vito. How are you, Vito? Thanks, doll. If you'd like to become a Tipperdoo, well, the link is down below. Now, on to the important things. Jorge, drink me. Oh, thank you so much. A fabulous cocktail. That's better. Suddenly I have the strength to go on. So let's get started. No one was happier for winning a secondary legendary legend star than Monet Exchange, bless her cotton socks. As for the rest of the queens, they loved the spoken word lip sync and wished they got to do it too. Speaking of getting to do it, Roger entered the workroom completely dejected and disappointed that there wasn't an Illuminati Platinum Plunger Block Club secret to unveil. So much so that she dropped the C word on the queens, and I'm not talking about the word charisma. Of course, Monet's win left Shea in the dust as the last queen with only one legendary legend star. Needless to say, Shea is starting to fret. The next day in the workroom, Rue's video message was interrupted by Kennedy Davenport, talking about the Kennedy Davenport Center and a hall of shame, and I don't know, I stopped listening halfway through because I knew Rue would tell us everything, which is exactly what Rue did when she showed up. This week's Maxi Challenge, Fire Up Those Ovens, was a roast! That's right. But this time, the queens wouldn't be roasting a single victim. They would be roasting each other. Gasp. To determine the running order of the roast, the pit crew arrived in some colorful snag tights, I might add, with a box full of balloons that the queens would have to pop using only their hips, and a pit crew member in a little stunt I like to call, you pop that balloon, you pop it! Pardon me. Why would they do this, you ask? Well, all the balloons had different colored confetti in them, which would determine the queen's place in the roast lineup. Jada went first and fast. Personally, I would have taken my time with Bruno, but all Jada needed to get it done was a quickie, apparently. Her confetti was purple, which put her 7th. Trinity wasn't playing around either. She popped green against Bryce, which put her 5th. Poor Bryce. Jinx wanted to be the thrustee instead of the thruster by asking Bruno to turn around, but that was against the rules. Jinx would have to man up and pop that balloon herself, which wasn't easy because, as you know, Jinx identifies as non-binary. But she finally threw herself into the challenge after many tries and got yellow, which put her 4th. Bless. Monet had no trouble popping her balloon, who's surprised. She popped that balloon so hard she got some in her mouth. Confetti, that is. Blue confetti to be precise, and that put her 6th. Evie popped pink. It's most definitely not the first time that's happened to her, but this time it put her 2nd. Shea popped orange, which put her 3rd. For those of you keeping score, there were only 2 balloons and 2 positions still open. First and last. No pressure for Roger and Vivi, who still had some popping to do. Roger went first and overzealously popped red, which put her in the 1st position. Of course, that left Vivi at 8th, but as one can imagine, she still wanted to pop her balloon anyway. So she did. She seemed so much more relaxed after. Did you notice? With the running order decided, the queens got down to work. Vivi was worried that her British sense of humor wouldn't translate. Shea was putting extra pressure on herself by worrying about not winning this challenge. As the only queen with just one legendary legend star, she more or less had to win this challenge for any chance at that finale. Seriously. Jada had never written a roast before and tried to run a few jokes past Trinity, who didn't offer up too many suggestions as, well, she had her own insecurities to deal with. Trinity had done a roast on Drag Race twice before, and neither time went well. For her anyway, so the pressure was on. Besides, Trinity had already predicted that Jinx and Monet would be winning this challenge, so maybe that helped release the pressure for her. Bless. Then it was time for the queens to workshop their material with Ross and Solomon Giorgio. It went very well. I didn't feel like there were a lot of duds as far as jokes went that the queens brought to the workshop, but what I loved was having a professional stand-up comic there who was openly gay. Solomon had great advice for all the queens and super cute while he did it. Seriously. As the queens got ready for the roast, there was a lot of plotting and scheming where blocking was concerned. All the queens thought through all the possibilities and strategies depending on who the top two queens were, and it seemed like everyone was assuming Jinx would be one of them. To be fair, so did I. On the main stage, Ru looked ravishing as a redhead, and I didn't hate her leopard print gown either. Joining Michelle and Ross on the judges panel was the already legendary Ronan Farrow. And then it was time to roast. Can I just say, the highlight of the roast for me was the return of Peppermint's Season 9 makeover drag daughter, Wintergreen, aka Sarge. I don't know, I like Sarge as a drag queen name too, I'm just saying. Wintergreen, was there to kick everything off with a few words from Kennedy Davenport herself about crystallizing from a fire or some such nonsense. You know, I didn't understand it the first time Kennedy Davenport said it, and Winter wasn't able to clear any of it up for me. But she looked good, and I, for one, hope that's not the last we ever see of Miss Wintergreen. Seriously. Roger went first and did a great job. She burned everyone equally, although that crack about Vivi being bet on at the Kentucky Derby was gold. All in all, I thought Roger killed it. Vivi did a great job too. Her line about Jinx having her hairline redone as being her biggest concern was beyond shady. But I did think she was a little subdued, bless. Shay did a good job too, but for someone who wanted another Legendary Legend star, I was expecting her to go in more. But I will say this, her makeup was stunning. Why did I ever look that good? Seriously. Watch it. Jinx killed it. I know, shocker, right? She burned Ru for stringing Shangela along for all these years. She burned Ross by ordering whatever intestinal parasite she was having. She even burned herself with a thought about how she'd become her mother halfway through a line of blow off of Evie's Between Me Down There, which stunned me a little bit because didn't she make a joke about doing the exact same thing in the Snatch Game? Except it involved Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra, I don't know. Anyway, it paints a clear picture of what Jinx likes to do in her downtime, doesn't it? Trinity the Tuck was next, and if she wasn't worried about this challenge before, having to follow what Jinx did couldn't have made it easier. But all I can say is, Shea Coulee should take notes. For a queen who has sucked so much at roasts in the past that Sunday dinners have been ruined forever, Trinity killed this. Everything she said was seriously funny. Saying Jinx's husband dresses her up like a piñata because he needs to be blindfolded before he hits it. I almost didn't come back from that. She compared Roger to a tall glass of water from Flint, Michigan, and burned Monet with a second fiddle to Bob the Drag Queen reference. I thought Ru should have just handed her a Legendary Legend star right then and there. I wonder if Trinity took up Jinx's offer to help punch up her script. I wonder if Jinx did, if she regrets doing it now. Normally, I would have worried for whoever was next, but as it was Monet Exchange, there was nothing to worry about. She killed it too. Monet kicked it off by burning Trinity for, well, actually being funny. She burned Jinx by saying she'd found out that, well, she herself was narcoleptic at one of Jinx's shows. She burned Vivi for gaining some weight during the taping of the show. Normally, I wouldn't go for body shaming, but Monet's burn involved a sheet cake, so I had to give it a pass. She burned Roger's liver, Jada's teeth, Shay's career, and all of a sudden, it's a three-horse race good for Monet. Jada was next. She started off so well, and then, well, she started tripping over her own words, and then it all started to fall apart. And then she started making fun of herself and turned it around. Not all the way, but could have been worse, I'm just saying. Finally, we had the Vivian. She also killed it, but I felt like she was defeated or holding back in some way. She wasn't that loud, vivacious Vivi we've all grown to love. Makes me wonder if possibly what some of the other queens said got to her. Fingerdoo's crossed that it didn't. Come on, Vivi! Seriously. And then it was time for the runway. Category is all glowed up. Roger was first in a stunning architectural body cage with the most unique shoes ever. And when the lights were dimmed, red lasers shot out of her body cage, which I loved because that was the name of my fringe play. Needless to say, I gave Roger a Fingerdoo. Seriously. Evie's runway was gorgeous. Her structural gown with pleated fabric was stunning. She looked like a tree stump with those beautiful phosphorus mushrooms growing off of it. It was the most beautiful I think Evie's ever looked on a Drag Race runway, ever. Fingerdoo for Evie. Shekulay's runway was breathtaking. She went from sunflower to firefly, all with the flick of a switch. So obviously, I gave her a Fingerdoo. You're so serious. The first thing I want to say about Jinx's runway was I loved her makeup. It was so not her usual. And then that runway, witches being burned at the stake, was an exquisite interpretation of this runway. This whole look took my breath away. Fingerdoo for Jinx. Seriously. Trinity's runway went the traditional route, but then she is from Vegas. I thought she looked like a big electric lobster and I couldn't have loved it more. Fingerdoo for Trinity, seriously. I love Monet's runway. The gown on its own was gorgeous, but when they flicked the switch, it became a cloud nebula from a faraway galaxy. My only complaint was that it wasn't very bright, but I totally gave her a Fingerdoo. Seriously. Up the wattage, Monet. I know that sounds dirty too. Jada's runway looked like she should be part of the electric parade on Disney's Main Street in the Magic Kingdom. When they flicked the switch, Jada was transformed into a mermaid. It was magic, but it was also more costumey than fashion. I didn't care. I gave her a Fingerdoo. The Vivien's runway was lovely. She was dressed like a white Valkyrie or an archangel ready to do battle. But once they flicked the switch, I found the lights to be, well, a little elementary. Don't get me wrong. I thought the rainbow lights in the wings were gorgeous, but the lights on her armor were just a little, I don't know, simple after it was all said and done. Don't get me wrong. I still gave her a Fingerdoo. And then Ru had some news for the queens. She was revising the All-Stars rules. Ru was hanging up the platinum plunger for the rest of the season. There would be no more blocking. Well, big whoop with only 2 more weeks to go. Seriously. Back in the Untucked Lounge, it was like Grand Central Station. Winter Green was there working behind the camera as usual, but this time she was in drag. The queens got Winter to kiki with them on the sofas. It was lovely to hear Winter talk about how much pain being in drag is. I have to admit that I was impressed that she was still wearing heels while operating the camera. Seriously. Ronan Farrow popped by, as if anyone could have stopped him, to take part in the loveliest mutual adoration society ever. Normally, people fawning over each other is not my thing, but there was such genuine respect in that room. Well, until Ronan showed the queens that, well, he'd been given a legendary legend star, and for a brief moment I feared for his well-being, I'm just saying. Thankfully, Ronan was whisked back to the judges' table before all hell could break loose. Bless. The fuzzy pink box made a repeat appearance too. This time the card inside told the queens to play 2 truths and a lie. This was a fun time waster until Monet's list included the fact that she'd slept with someone in the current cast. Well, as you can imagine, all the jaws hit the floor. Vivi thought Monet was talking about Winter Green. Jada couldn't take it. She was hell-bent to find out who it was. Unfortunately, we never did. Do you think she's telling the truth? No, me either. Back on the main stage, Ru announced that the top 2 All-Stars of the week were Jinx Monsoon, well, no surprise there, and shock of shocks, Trinity the Tuck. She lives! Here's the Trinity. Well done. I'm so surprised. Kings and Queens by Ava Max was the song this week, and as far as lip syncs go, Jinx went the comedy route, which is a euphemism for did a cartwheel. Trinity was a hairography whirlwind, whipping that wig around and shaking her moneymaker. They even did a little lip syncing together, much to Jinx's horror, but all in all, it was a super fun lip sync to watch. But when the music died, it was Jinx Monsoon who was awarded the $10,000 tip. Anyone else wondering who she would have blocked if that was still a thing? So, there you go. What do you think? Were the right two queens on the top? Did the right queen win the lip sync? What do you think about the Platinum Plunger getting the block? 2 more episodes to shave and stand a chance? All we can do is tune into RuPaul's Drag Race All-Star 7, all winners next week to see how it all plays out. And when you're done, you come on back so you and I can compare notes. Now, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you'd like to help support this channel, the links for becoming a Tipperdoo, for becoming a member of the Fingerdoo family on Patreon, or shopping my Redbubble store are all down below in the description box. Until next week, miss me! I'm serious. I was so impressed with Trinity. I even said last week I thought she would do well. I'd even forgotten how badly she'd done on those other roasts before, because I think her snatch games were so strong that it just made me think, oh, she's funny. Plus, everything she says in the confessionals is hilarious. So, I don't know what she did to turn it around this time. If Jinx Monsoon helped punch up her script, good for her. But even just having a script punched up, I mean, Jada proved it. You can screw up just plain old reading if you don't do it right. Poor Jada. I'm so glad she turned it around by picking on herself, roasting herself. She's so cute and adorable. Oh, but Shay only has 1 star, 1 week left to go. At best, she can be in the majority with 2. So that puts Jinx at 4, Jada at 3. And is everyone else at 2? Oh, there's going to have to be a twist and a turn and a flip this week, or else it's going to be a fairly predictable all-star. Not that I have a problem with that. What am I predicting?